Hi, I'm Joe Hyde with San Angelo Live, and we're going to interview, this is the last interview with Congressman Mike Conaway. He's been the congressman for Congressional District 11 since 2004.
I was sworn in 05. I won the 04 election and then I was sworn in 05.
And then you announced your retirement last August.
August of 19. Mm-hmm.
And you said, one of the interesting things you said back then, I'm going to announce my retirement early so that whoever's going to run to replace me has time to visit all 29 counties. Yep. And those counties span from Granbury all the way through San Angelo, all the way to Midland, and then
all the way to Odessa.
Midland, Odessa, and then you go down to Llano also. So it's a gigantic area.
Let me say, and Colorado City on the top.
The only strange thing about the only district stranger is probably Congressional District 23, which is the San Antonio to El Paso along the border there. So, since this is your last interview, I wanted, you told a story once about the first time you came to San Angelo. You were unknown, no one knew who you were. You were running for Congress, and this must have been in 2003, 2004. Yep. What happened?
So the map had not been drawn. Tom DeLay was Speaker of the House. Tom Craddock was Speaker of the House in Texas, mm-hmm. and Tom DeLay was driven to reset the congressional map. At that point in time, it was 16-16, and there was not a statewide elected Democrat in anywhere. And so the 16-16 split did not mirror Texas. And so they were going through the process of redrawing the maps. And I had run in a special election for 19, and I was pretty confident that.
And that's Congressional District 19.
Congressional District 19.
And that was the old map.
The old map, that's right. And so I was pretty confident that if we had a new map, in fact, Craddock said, unless we get a seat that somebody from Midland can be competitive in, because the old district was Midland and Lubbock, and mm-hmm. Lubbock was bigger. Then we won't have a new map. And he's Speaker of the House, right?
Right.
So he gets the map drawn, but that didn't happen until October. I started coming down here in right after I lost the special election for District 19 in June. I knew it was going to, I was pretty confident, include San Angelo and Odessa. That'd be the core. Right. And then all the surrounding counties would depend on the break. And so I started coming down here. We went to Golden Corral.
And Golden Corral today is Twin Peaks on Knickerbocker Road for everyone who knows.
That's right.
And if you're not from San Angelo or not from Texas, Twin Peaks is kind of like the Hooters of Texas.
That's right. and so it's, but it was not then.
Not then. It was the Golden Corral, which
Golden Corral, all you can eat
steak.
All you can eat to pitch. Yeah, pitch to you win, as my daddy would say. And met with a group of Republicans. Lou Brown, who had moved here, she and Wynn had moved here from Midland. Wynn had been a county commissioner in Midland. She was Miss Republican in Midland and a part of that group.
Right.
They moved down here to Cristobal, and so I called her and said, "Hey, I want to run in this new district if there is one. Can you put some Republicans together?" Mm-hmm. And she put a great group together, including Stanley and Deanna Mayfield, Charlie and Joanna Hafer, Charlie and Joanna Powell, and Ned Hopkins, and some of the old school. The warriors who had dominated Republican politics in Tom Green County for a long, long time at the Golden Corral, and I had my first experience with those guys at that point.
So I guess it was positive because you gained momentum out of that.
I did. In fact, I asked Deanna Mayfield to be my campaign treasurer, and she said yes.
And that's Stanley Mayfield's wife.
Stanley Mayfield's wife. She's since passed away. She's just a dear, delightful lady, a force of nature when it came to mm-hmm. raising money.
Right.
She arguably had the best fundraising in Rolodex in all of Tom Green County. And when we do our fundraisers down here, Deanna would not let me make any calls. She would say, "Nope, I'm calling," because mm-hmm. hardly anybody ever said no to Deanna. And so, but I was really fortunate and blessed to gain her confidence, Stanley's confidence, and in the cachet she had within the overall community, and she and Stanley both. I got benefit of that. In that first election.
Do you remember what you carried? How many people did you run against in the Republican primary?
Republican primary, because we'd had the District 19 with 17 people in it. The Republican
17 candidates?
Candidates in that special.
Oh man.
10 or 11 Republicans, a Democrat, a Green Party, a Constitutionalist, a guy that just put his name on the ballot and never showed up. I ran into him later, and he said, "Yeah, I just want to say I ran for Congress," which cost him $3,200, but. But in this race, there was actually only one other person in the congressional race in the Republican primary. A professor from Howard Payne University in Brownwood ran against me in that primary.
So where's he today? Is he still in?
We're not sure. He has some issues with his campaign finance filings, and so he left the state.
So you're an accountant, so you didn't have any trouble with the filings. But now, so you show up to Congress, and this is probably important because now we're going to have a brand new freshman congressman representing us.
A guy I have really high expectations for.
That's August Pfluger. You have high expectations for him.
I
Okay.
do.
So if you were advising August Pfluger, take us behind the curtains and tell us what you would tell him about what to do based on what you learned, and maybe give a couple stories about those first couple of years in Congress.
Well, what I told you about the 29 counties is what I told August in August of 19.
Right.
I told any of the 10 or 11 folks that were running, hey, if you have any questions, ask me and I'll be happy to visit with you about it. And August did. And I said, August, you got to go to all 29 counties more than once. And he got to meet, and I gave him a list of people to meet, and he did that. So, but what I would say today is, and he doesn't need my advice, none of these new guys do, but is to put in place the very best district constituent service staff you possibly can. Okay. Because that's where the rubber meets the road.
And of course, in yours, you had Joanne Powell.
I have.
And you still do.
I still do.
And she's been a workhorse for you, and she's she's part of your branding, actually.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. She knows everybody here in Tom Green County, and just a wonderful lady. In fact, she was my very first hire. I'm her third congressman to train. Mm-hmm. She trained Lamar Smith and Tom Leffler before me, and she's worked all 16 years for me, just done a great work. But the work that she and her teammates do every single day makes somebody's life just a little less difficult. And once that happens, that person's going to vote for me. Now, they do all the hard work. I get the credit for it. Right. And ultimately, they are more likely than not to vote for me in that regard. So having that good district staff, because here's the other thing, Joe. In D.C., you have to have 217 friends in the House, and one of them has to be the Speaker. Right. And then you got to find 60 friends in the Senate, and then a president that will sign whatever it is you've done. And that's not happening every day. Mm-hmm. But every day, somebody in the 700,000 people in District 11 needs some help. And putting that team in place that I've been able to have in place all these years pays dividends over and over when it comes to your reelection. Right. And so it's a bit self-serving, but it really works to the advantage of the district. What are some of the bigger problems on constituent levels? One of them was after 9/11, we changed the rules over time that you're going to need a passport to get in and out of the country. Right. Now, you used to go to Mexico and Canada with a driver's license or whatever. Well, at that point in time that rule was changing, it caught a lot of people flat-footed. Mm-hmm. And the State Department had no way of triaging that massive request they got. So somebody who needed a passport tomorrow or next week was in line ahead of or behind somebody who didn't need it for 5 weeks.
So there's probably a lot of cross-border commerce that was affected by this.
Absolutely. And so our team was able to make those contacts at the State Department to be able to say, all right, you've got 4 of them from District 11. Here's the dates on which they're needed. State Department was then able to flip them around, put them in the right order, and get them done. And people were able to not have their deal. Problems with the IRS, problems with Social Security. We have a lot of VA issues. We have a lot of vets who live in District 11. If something's going on at the VA, healthcare, whatever, we can help in that regard. My best story is my mother shopping at a department store in Odessa, Texas. She hands the clerk the card. He looks at it and goes, "Hey, do you know Mike Conaway?" And she said, "Well, yes, I do. That's my son." Mm-hmm. Well, he launches into this story about how the IRS was coming after him. They were just beating the dog out of him. They were garnishing wages. They're going to take his house, going to take his firstborn son. I mean, it was just this litany of things that were going wrong in his life. And he became so desperate that he called his member of Congress. Uh-huh. And 4 days later, the IRS called and said, "Never mind." Well, I don't know what happened there. I didn't know anything about it. Now, the picture there, she's trying to check out, and there are 9 or 10 people lined up wanting to check out. She's not going to shut this guy up because he's bragging on her baby boy, so she's going to let that happen. But his life is a little better, just a little less difficult. So those are the kind of stories, and there are hundreds of them. Every single, we have 6 offices around the district, and every one of them has got just hundreds of stories where people's lives are just a little less difficult, and that's good stuff, quite frankly. Mm-hmm.